I put in our posts that we've been posting on social media, I put a statement that said, we don't just count church attendance, we count kingdom influence. We don't just count church attendance, we count kingdom influence. That is a big statement. And you'll notice that we major on, as a church, equipping people to bring the kingdom beyond the walls of the church out there. And we keep track of that. We look at the stats, we look at the impact, the influence. And so when I say something like that, like we don't just count church attendance, why am I saying that? It's not to upset anybody. We have a church, I have a church. I know who's there, who's not there. We're not reckless with our care of the sheep. But for such a long time, fruitfulness in ministry has been solely defined by the amount of people in the room. We will even despise social media reach and online reach because we think, well, they're not in the room. And up until recently, the model of churchianity, of what defined fruitfulness, was the crowd. What defined fruitfulness were the numbers. The pastor lived and died by Sunday morning, looking at the crowd, who's there, who's not there. Of course, it's important to be in the house. Of course, it's important to take inventory and care for the sheep. However, Jesus's model was a bit different, or at least he placed emphasis on something greater, which was kingdom impact outside of the church, making today's church a factory of discipleship, equipping, training for the purpose of sending mature believers back into society where their pulpit is, where their ministry is, and reach the harvest. That was actually the goal of Jesus, and is the goal of this thing we call church. And so I look at pastors, and when I talk to many of them, they're so burdened by how many people come out, how many people attending. And if you've ever been to the pastor's meeting, where you stand around in the room with coffee, and how many people do you have in your church? Well, how many people do you? I have 200 people. I have 500 people. And the person in the room with the most amount of people visiting a building for 2 hours on a Sunday is supposedly the most successful minister that we should all try to attain to. We play the numbers game. And I find it hard to believe that God became a man, grew in wisdom and stature and favor, carried the sins of the world upon himself on a cross, absolutely divided history, made history for eternal, all so we could attend church once a week for 2 hours, and that's it. That's the goal. Surely there's more than that. And that's why there was a great commission, which was to go and disciple all nations, baptizing them. You see, there's a point to this thing we call church. We come, we gather, we assemble, we hear the word, corporate worship, communion, water baptism, all good, incredibly important. But there's a high point. There's a goal to this thing. And so we say around History Makers Church, we don't just count church attendance, we count kingdom influence. It's not about how many people you can get inside a building, but by how much kingdom you can get into society through your church members. And what we noticed is that when churches, even small churches, got a hold of this message, the burden was lifted. So I don't have to feel like a failure as a pastor if there's just 50 people, 100 people, 300 people. I don't have to feel like I'm failing. No, you're not failing. You're shepherding the flock God has given you. The question will be, what have you done to equip those people to fulfill the mission of Jesus in getting the kingdom out into society? So you'll see with our History Makers 3rd year anniversary stats, you'll see a lot of wild numbers. You'll see incredible influence to the homeless, to different nations. Why do we emphasize this? Because we want to relieve pastors and bring vision to the church that, wow, no matter what size my church is, I can be making eternal kingdom impact that matters most to the heart of God. We must use our church platforms and our ministries to equip people, to care for people, disciple people, empower people, and sow them as seeds of the kingdom into society to reap the harvest that God is so desperate to claim. So let's do that.